Hi everyone, I'm Federico Perez and I'm a senior software developer here at Somnio Software. Today, we're introducing Flutter Tips number 17, Cooking with GenUI. But me, myself, I never know what to cook for dinner. So what I'm going to do is create an app to actually, get some ideas for recipes before we get to cooking. All right, but we need to do that with GenUI. So what is GenUI first? Um, it's a Flutter package. It generates dynamic UI powered by generative AI models. You know, in simple terms, it means you are going to be able to just enter some text and get UI as an answer. So what are we going to be using to make this application? We're going to be using GenUI and GenUI Firebase AI. So GenUI Firebase AI is actually what we are going to be using to connect to Gemini and use it for our AI engine. Then JSON schema builder, we're going to use that to tell our catalog items what we are going to be sending them from the answers from Gemini. I'll get deeper into that later. And then we need to enable Firebase AI Logic API in Google Cloud, and also Gemini Developer API in Google Cloud. And finally, you need to enable Gemini API in Firebase. All right, so now let's get to coding. Okay, so now we're at code, and I'm going to first show you our recipe catalog. So this catalog is actually some widgets that we are going to create as custom widgets. So we're giving them to GenUI, so it's capable of creating some custom UI for us. So first in this file, we got some sanitizing methods here for resolving a string and a string list. Then I've got a catalog item here that declares first a schema. This specific catalog item is for a title. So we are actually sending a property as a text for the recipe title. And then I'm just returning a catalog item with the name recipe title, the schema that we just created, and then the widget builder. So for the widget builder, we're just creating a title here. All right, so this is our title, but we also got recipe ingredients and recipe card as our widgets that we created. And then finally, I'm exporting everything as recipe catalog items. Back to main.dart. Here we are initializing Firebase and the widgets. And then here is our prompt for Gemini. And I wanted to show you in our prompt, we've got this specific segment here that says that we are only going to be using these custom widgets, the recipe card, recipe title, and recipe ingredients, which are the ones we just saw here in our names for the catalog items. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is initializing our states. And first, we got the catalog here. We are creating the catalog, the core catalog items object that we get from GenUI. And then we are going to copy with and send it all of our recipe catalog items. This is the export we made down below here. So now that we got to our catalog, we are going to initialize to our A2UI message processor, to which we are going to be adding the catalog. Then we need to initialize Firebase AI content generator, which is our connection to Gemini, send it the catalog, and our recipe system instruction, which is the name of our prompt here. Then I'm going to initialize the GenUI conversation. We are going to be passing the processor, the content generator that we just created, and then on surface added and on surface deleted. Speaking of surfaces, we've got a variable here. It's a list of surface IDs. So what are these surfaces? These surfaces are the widgets that the GenUI is going to be creating. So here we're going to create a list builder that takes these surface IDs and passes them to GenUI surface, which is going to just generate those UIs in our application. So whenever GenUI creates a new widget, we're going to add it to onSurfaceAdded here. And we are just going to modify the state to add the surface ID to our list. And whenever GenUI deletes a widget, we're going to remove it from the list. All right. Okay. So the last one of our lines on the init state is actually a listener that we're going to be using to listen when the content generator is processing. So this means it's thinking an answer for what we entered as text. And we are going to use this to just set our loading variable, which is declared here, to true or false, depending on if everything, the application is loading or not. That's going to be here, and it will display a circular progress indicator. All right. So finally, what we've got here is our send message method. It's only going to take the text that we get from the text box here and send it to conversation as a message. This is going to use conversation from GenUI that is going to send the message to Gemini with our prompt here. And then we are going to receive an answer that we are going to turn into UI using GenUI surface here. Finally, we're just going to dispose of everything we got here to stay responsible with our memory. And that's pretty much it. The only other Dart file that we need to cover is the instructions page. This is actually just normal UI that we're going to be using to show our ingredients and also our instructions. If we get into the button here that says let's cook on our recipe catalog cards. All right, so let's test it. I don't know, I've got eggs and bacon. It's now loading. And here you go. I got a recipe with eggs and bacon. Let's cook it. All right, now I can see the ingredients and instructions here down below. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you everyone so much for joining, and I hope you found it useful. This was Flutter Sessions number 17, and happy coding.